I guess when we looking at all this, see, it all boils down to how we bring it all together as of today. You know, we can talk about all the things that are past that what brought us to this point, and I think these things help paint the picture of why or how we got to this point in our lives. And so when we look at it right now, trying to co-parent, as a co-parents, all our kids are grown now, but when we was going through that process, it was not an easy process after we got divorced. Because guess what? We're not where we are at right now, where we was back then, because we were not the best of friends when it first happened. You know what I'm saying? We had to get to that point. And we had to figure out a way to get to that point, and for the sake of the kids. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't need to see us at odds with one another. And Jerry being BJ being the youngest of them all, we had to figure that out quickly, because he was torn and he's looking at the situation. He doesn't know which way to go. Should I be with my mom? Should I be with my dad? I like to play football. My dad supports that, and he's a big football guy and all this other kind of stuff. And so I was doing everything that he wanted to do. But as a whole, how did we bring all that together, not just for him, but for Sinead, Tweet, and Taz, and looking at that and saying, hey, how do we put all this together? Because the kids had some blame fingers. They were pointing who they want to blame in the whole situation too, because they're looking at us and what we're going through, and they're saying, hey, there's a right and wrong. And, you know, and I think they saw those things, and they saw a couple of our situations that kind of got out of hand, and to where we, you know, we start to paint a picture for them that I did not want them to see as their father. And I know you didn't want to see as their mother. And that's probably the reason why we separated. But as we came back together to talk about how we parent with these kids, it's a tough piece to put together, because you have a different ideology. And when I'm looking at it, and I say to you, I said, you know, I think this for baby Jerry, or I think this for Taz, I think this for Tweet. We always were at odds about a lot of different things. And I don't know, it's because of the different parenting styles or the way we were raised or whatever, but we were at odds with a lot of different things. When you say that?
Yeah. We were at odds with a lot of different things, but also because, yeah, it was because of our parenting styles, no doubt about it. But also, I think a lot of it was you didn't think things through when it came to certain things. Like, I'm not saying that, because you have, like, men are different than women. You know, we're more like detail oriented. We're down to the. You know what I mean? And so there were things that would take place. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that because of this reason. And of course, it didn't help, because the kids would look at it like I was the mean parent and you were the nicer parent. So they would go to you. And so one thing, and so even when we divorced, I think that was kind of the consensus, you know, that people, they more or less migrated to you because you were the one that wasn't going to ask many questions. You weren't the ones that was going to demand much. Whereas that I'm the one that's always, what are you doing? What's your next move? How do we? So that was always my thing with the kids. And so there were things that they didn't want to answer. You know what I mean? And so, and then of course, once you got into another situation when we divorced, your girls went with you. Right, your girls went with you, and that was tough, especially the oldest one. The youngest one was a little different because she and our relationship was a little different, right? Because she wasn't in the house as permanent as the oldest girl was, and I kind of like, I didn't want to be the one to say, well, you have to keep a relationship with me, because I knew that was tough on the kids to divorce, you know, for us to divorce, and then they're trying to decide how they're going to spend their Christmases, and they're trying to decide, you know, which parent house they go to for this or that or the third, you know. And so I get that part, you know. I definitely get that part, you know. But I also know that what I recognize in divorce is that blood is always thicker than water. I recognize that in divorce, and that was something I had to come to terms with, because at first I was bitter about it. I was bitter about it, a lot of it. Not bitter to the point where people knew, but I was like, well, why wasn't this like this for me? They're gonna go with their rightful parent. BJ on the other hand, he was a little different because he stayed firm, and I think we talked about this on a previous episode. He stayed firm into who he was. He was not going to make a decision between his mother or his father. His thing was, you're my mother, you're my father. You're half of me and you're half of me. And that was his thing. So he never like faltered. He stayed consistent with that. He never because I was like very demanding about, BJ because like I said before, it's kind of a when a mother gives their child to their father for a year, however long it was, 2 years to because of things that's going on, as a mother, especially a black woman, it makes me feel like a failure.
Why?
Because it's personal. Because a mother, no matter what, we're able to fix everything. Because you got to remember, even in those years that you and I had been together, whenever there was something that went on with the family, the kids, whoever, it was up to me to fix it, to resolve it. Right? Because I don't know if you felt the burden of, and I don't mean burden in a bad way. I don't know, and I'm talking about like pressure or, and I don't even know another word. This
maybe the gravity of it all. I
don't know if you felt that in the family as I did. Like I think one time I asked you, do you when you're in a meeting, do you ever think about what you got to do when you get home? He was like, no. I said, do you think about what the kids gonna eat? You were like, no. Because for me, it was like a constant, like I could not afford to drop the ball on nothing. Because in my mind, if I did, then I'm going to be the one to have to work double hard to fix it. And so when we...
So, not to cut you off, but that's the pressure what most African American families face, especially from on the female side of the house, because you guys have been the mainstay in the household.
Correct.
And so that pressure, what you guys feel, is not so much added by the husband, but it's a pressure to keep everything together. This is the way to protect the family. You guys were the protectors of the family. You know how the story went. Let me keep this young black male from speaking out. Let me keep him from doing this. And the mother was the one that did all that because the father was silenced. We had no tone. We had no voice. In a lot of instances, you guys had, right now, you still carry that on. And for the last 60, 70 years, you have been a mainstay in the family.
Yeah.
You can look back at it. Men have been incarcerated at a high level. Not to get on this soapbox in a political sense, but that's the reason why it's all been passed down to you. It's just been given to you guys, and y'all have taken it, and then, quote unquote, the black male has looked like the heel. We've looked like that, for the most part. But in actuality, when you say, I didn't think about it, because I always thought on the fly and a lot of things. Hey, if it ain't nothing cooked, we going to McDonald's.
Right. And I get it. But when we talk about parenting and things like that, so for me, there was two different parenting styles. And so because of that, I will question myself in a lot of ways.
So let me ask you a question. Did you grow up with your father in your household?
No.
So you saw what a single mother would do and how she would carry out everything within that
but
household.
I did have men in my life.
Yeah.
That showed me. I had my grandfathers. I had my uncles. That showed me men in the house who were providers. Who was taking care of the family, and the mother was the one. But the roles were different though, because most of those women, like my grandmother, didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The roles are totally different.
So she didn't have that added stress of having to go to a 9 to 5, and our jobs was never 9 to 5. My job was more of a 5 to 9.
And mine was,
and I'm talking after the hand goes around at one time, a 05 to what is it,
9
20?
p.m.
Yeah. So it was definitely different than what they had back then. But for me, when it comes to the parenting part of it, I think that's the part that I don't know. I think when it came to us parenting our kids, we definitely was
too different.
Yeah, we were like ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, once we divorced, that was a part of me that I had to question. Especially when the relationships between me and the kids weren't as strong as I would like them to have been. And so I had to question myself about that and say.
So did you question yourself, or did you want to question the kids?
No. I questioned myself because I'm an adult.
What question did you ask
yourself? Did I make it impossible for them to? Because see, because when we were together, Newmys, you were home with the kids more than I was.
Correct.
Most of the days,
Absolutely.
simply because of our job difference.
The job differences.
You know what I mean? We were both in the military, but your job was a lot different than mine. You know what I mean? You probably only worked 8 hours a day, if that. You know what I'm saying? If that. Whereas I worked a minimum of 10 hours a day. You know what I mean? And so you were at home with the kids more than I was. And so when I would come home, it was like, okay, so when I came home, I was more or less like, I have to get these 20,000 things done on my list before tomorrow. So I don't have time for anything else because I'm the one, because I took care of a lot of the things in the house. And so when it came to the kids, I questioned myself and so when BJ wanted to live with you, of course I questioned that. When the oldest girl didn't come around me and she didn't bring the grandson, I questioned that. And there was a lot of things that I questioned. And I'm like, well, is it me? Like, am I the problem? In other words, it was one of those things where, because I know that I'm very stern, because I'm very focused in a lot of ways. And in a relationship, I was that way. And that's why I know that a lot of it wasn't you. A lot of it was me, because I'm very calculating. I'm very like this, you know what I mean? And so I know that a lot of it in the relationship was me. And so when it came to the parenting aspect, and that's why I was like, well, maybe I wasn't giving you what you needed. And that's why, and same thing with the kids. And that's why for me, when it was time to say, you know what, this is what it is, but apparently I'm not what this guy needs.
And I don't think that translates over well, because like I always have said, and I stand up and I can raise my hand when I say that, hey, that I was wrong in a lot of different ways. And I think that's the true testament of an individual. You own it. If you can own it, and I can say, hey, that I could have done better. And this is what happens in relationships. People fail to take ownership and responsibility for their actions and the things they do within those relationships, or even throughout life.
But then I say this is because when I looked at where I was after the divorce, and you had moved on into another relationship, whereas I was still I was single, and like I said, the kids were more or less with you than they were with me.
Right.
And so that was all of them. And so I really questioned myself and the type of person that I was. And so when it came to the parenting style of it, I was like, I don't think I questioned my parenting style as more or less I questioned who I was as a parent, right? Because I think my parenting style was what it needed to be, because you were too lackadaisical when it came to certain things.
There's a balance. Yeah.
But I think that I questioned myself as a parent. Had I made those connections with my children, that was important. And then it also made me question the connection that I had with you. And I'm like, well, maybe that's because because people look at me as either black or white, meaning I don't mean color wise. I mean they're just like, yeah, Sheikah's either hot or cold. You know what I mean? I'm never in the middle. You know what I mean? Which I didn't know that about myself. For me, I thought I was always very clear about what I'm doing, what my intentions are. Same thing with my kids. I thought I was very explaining, we're doing this for this reason. It wasn't just because I said so. It was because this is the reason why. And looking back, there was a lot of things that I'm glad that I was the way I was, because had I not been the way I was, we wouldn't have had some of the things that we had. Yeah. So there definitely is a balancing. But when it comes to parenting, I believe that it was I think that all parents question themselves.
Oh yeah.
And I think that for me, I was able to do it a little bit before you, because I did look at it from the perspective of, here I was, had 4 children at the time, parents of 4 children. And by the time you and I divorced, it seemed like I was by myself in terms of where the kids were at. Tass was away at college. BJ was living with you. The girls were gone away. And even to this day, I have no relationship with the girls. Which I think is, and it makes me say, well, maybe it's me. Because...
So, okay, if you're saying that at this point, is it up to them, you, or the both of you guys to sit down and say, hey?
No. I'm not taking responsibility. What I'm saying is that maybe it's me. In other words, the person that I am, I'm 52. I'm not going to change, and I'm not about to adjust to no 30-year-old. And it's just that simple, right? So what I'm saying about this is true. When I say maybe it's me, I know who I am, and I'm very comfortable with that.
So let me say this, right? One of the things what we always take for granted is what?
Time.
So I can remember my counselor telling me this, and he says to me, he said, what difference does it make what you're arguing about right now or what you think right now? Because if something catastrophic happens, there's always a shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I think we've talked about this in reference to those kids as well. We have to be able to say, hey, this is me. I'm going to hug on you and I'm going to love on you. You still mine. We have issues. We have problems.
And that's where I'm at with my kids. But what I don't do is condone.
And you
I don't condone.
What are you
okay,
condoning?
so what?
If this kid was coming up, slapping you in the face, telling you this and doing all this crazy, but what are we condoning?
No. Let me say this because I think that you're about to start mixing apples and oranges.
Okay.
At this point, because I'm talking about back then and now.
Okay.
Right. We're talking about two different things. I'm talking about back then. Back then, in my mind, I was like, well. But I also knew that the way that I was, like I said, it saved us. Because when it came to finances, when it came to education, when it came to structure, when it came to those kids learning things about life, when it came to basic living standards of life, those things were taught by me. And a lot of it, whether it was how to keep a house clean, how to cook, how to wash your clothes, hell, even how to change tires is how I showed the boys how to change tires, right? And so what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that, but I also know that the way that I am, when it came to my parenting style, it was one of those things where I did question a lot of things, right? I questioned. Just who I, just me as a parent, and I thought about it and I said, well, if I had been different, what would that have looked like? And if I had been different, it would have looked different.
It would have been a little bit chaotic.
It would have been more chaotic.
Because I think
if I had to live life free like you, like the things that you did, for example, your thing was. When it came to the kids, like it was, whatever. But when it came to just your involvement in the family, and I know you're a man, so you're going to do things different. But if I had to approach our family in the same light as you did, in terms of day-to-day activities, day-to-day interaction, day-to-day whatever, where would our family have been?
I don't know, but I don't think there's a balance in all of it. See, you can't be all over here and we both all over here. There's going to be things that I'm going to do totally different. Now, one of the things I fault myself for on a lot of the things that you were trying to instill or do, I gave pushback to.
Such as
the parenting aspect of it. Like the deal with a C in class. I say, hey, C is passing, we good, you know what I'm saying? But no, you feel like, hey, a C to me is substandard, and that's just the average person, and let's figure that out. Let's figure out what we're gonna do differently. I didn't necessarily agree with that, and I had voiced my opinion about that because I think our oldest girl, she stayed on punishment most of her doggone 8th to 9th grade year because she was making C's.
And what degree is she working on right now?
She's got her master's, I think. She has a master's.
She's working on her doctoral degree.
Yeah, she got her master's right now. But those type of things, what you put a lot of emphasis on, I think made the kids better. But the things what I would pour into them was like, hey, this is how a father spends time with his kids. This is what your expectations are. For you as young ladies, what you should have as far as a man. This is how you should be as a dad in the future. And so it's different things. And those are different balances than what you did. Because
I didn't have that kind of time, Newmys.
No, I'm just saying,
and I know I say that because I remember if I was lucky enough to have a Sunday off, that involved us resetting for the next week. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
And so I didn't have, so the time that I had was like very intentional. So it was just like, okay, we're doing this, and while we're here, this is the purpose that we're doing it. So what I would do was very intentional, and you know, when it came to the kids. But I think that the point that we're both trying to make here is this: when it came to those kids, because we had so many different dynamics, like we talked about in the different episode, you and I came from more or less. I came from a single parent home, absentee father. You were more or less raised by your grandparents.
I came from a broken home, and then I went to my grandparents.
Yeah, and so, and then when we became parents ourselves, we became parents of bonus children, as well as you know, we call it stepchildren, and then all that kind of stuff. So we've had all different dynamics of relation or children, and then now I have my daughter, and she's my adopted daughter. So now I have that experience, right? And, you know, and even you've had experience with raising a grandson, you know, a grandchild. You know, and so you've had these different dynamics. We've had these different dynamics. And I think what it really boils down to is that there's just no, I mean, when it comes to people and them doing their part, everybody has to do their part. Because there's no one size fit all. There's no one way to do these things. And I think that the way that we did it, I don't think we could have done a better job now that I look back. Because when we look at our kids, all four of them, we have two that serves. All four of them are either in college or have a degree. You know, at least one degree at this point, if they're not already in college. Right. None of them has been, you know, convicted in, you know. So when I think about the standard and where you and I came from, because we came from those things. We came from people who only had high school diplomas. We came from people who on welfare that didn't own houses, that move year to year and things like that. So for us to have came from those things, and we're here now, and our kids are here, and we did that without having any type of. Nobody gave us a manual, which of course life is like that for everybody. But I think that we did a pretty good job.
See, but there's a difference, and I think there's a difference in different communities. And in this platform, what we're talking about and things that we're talking about is how do we continue to impact our kids in a positive way? How can others impact their kids in a positive way?
Right.
Because what happens is this: other communities come together. They raise their families within a certain mindset, but we have been, you know, from broken homes, and you know, even with our family, it's a broken home. So how did you keep on giving them the best of each other, so they can pull the best out of themselves, so they can be great individuals and do that for their kids?
And that's why I think this platform is important, because you and I have 30 years. Almost 30 years of knowing each other.
Right.
And everything that we've done, you can't tell me it was in vain. In other words, we were always trying to build something for something greater, which was for our kids, for our grandkids, whatever. And so that's why I really think this platform is important, because it really highlights that despite all those other things, like when we keep our eyes on the prize, which is to make sure that our kids and our grandkids don't have to do or have to go through what we went through. So we're continuing to work. We continue to bring our resources together. You and I look at each other as iron sharpens iron. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so because of that, we can see that in that something great can go out of it, because our story will be impactful to other people. I mean, because there was so much there. There's so much there. And I mean, and I don't even think we've scratched the surface, because we're talking about 30 years, you know, and despite all of it, we can sit here and be cordial, be friends, be all the things with each other, and not looking to slice each other's throat.
But it took some time to get to this point.
Yeah, I don't remember us. Do you? I don't remember us going through a lot. Do you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially when it came to Baby Jerry. You know,
well, that was different.
Yeah.
Baby Jerry was different because. Baby Jerry was different. When it comes to the kids, I think that was different, and you know why, and that's another episode. Because some people needed a handbook. But at the same time, you know, I expected more out of you when it came to Baby Jerry, because of the fact that I wouldn't have never put you in compromising positions that you put me in regarding our son.
No, and so as we get into that. And I think it's something to talk about, because I think women view it differently than men. Because look at the dynamics, what happened with my daughter and her mother and you. And look at the dynamics, what happened with you and my current wife and BJ.
There was nothing that happened with your
yes.
current wife. No, it wasn't. It was simple. That's my son, and it's not yours, and that's it. So there's nothing else that happened. It's just simple. This is my son, and that's it.
So this is the deal, right? And I think with you took it as a slight against you.
No, it's not no slight. It's not a slight against me. What I expected you to do from the very beginning, and we're talking 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Was it 10 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Easy 10
Close to it.
10 or 12, 11 years ago.
You, being the father, was supposed to, well, you know what? Let me say that, because I'm not going to tell a man what he's supposed to do.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So what I would have preferred for you to do was to set some ground rules.
But you wanted the ground rules to be for you.
No. I wanted the ground rules to be reflective of the respect that I showed you when it came to our son.
So let me tell you a story. And you know this story well because we went through it. When my ex got into a situation and there was a man that was there, I had the conversation with the man. And I sit down and we talked. And I said, hey, this is the situation. You're here. And I'm thankful that you are here. And the only thing I ask, don't overstep the line to where you do something to her. But as far as discipline her and you putting your money in this place, you have every right to stand up as a man and do that. But you know what women tend to do? They tend to want to bicker and say, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. No.
See, that's where you're mixing me with the next chick. No. Because when we talk about Yashika, when we talk about no. I only can speak from what I've been through. No. Let me interrupt you here. When it came to the situation with your first wife and your daughter, that was between him and you guys were 20, 30 years of age. I was very clear with you, not no woman, but with you from the very beginning, right? Don't have my son around your women. It was just that simple, especially when we were still together and you having play dates and stuff with my son.
That's not true.
So regardless of whether it's true or not, that's all I asked. So no, this wasn't a play date. So let me tell you this story before we end this episode. Let me tell you how it happened here. My son did not know that we were divorced because since you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. And I'm going to tell it from my perspective and you can figure out what parts you want to deny or not. So let me tell you what happened from my perspective. Our son had just found out that year that we were really divorced because he didn't really know. Up until 2013 is when he finally really knew that we were divorced. That was when you and I both came from deployments, right? I got back January 2013, okay? So around that time, that summer, my son or our son went to you for the summer at your house in Texas, okay? And at that time, you invited at the time she was your girlfriend or whoever she was to you at the moment, and you guys took pictures together, okay? Now, at this time, this was my son's because, remember, I just got back in January. He in with you as soon as school let out, May, June time frame for the summer. So prior to that, he never met this woman or her kids. But then all of a sudden, come summertime, you're throwing them in a family picture with the dog and all, okay? The dog and all. On the family picture, y'all are at the beach, at the whatever. My son, you never asked your son not one time how he felt about that. Now, fast forward, I found out about the picture several months later because I don't give a crap about any of that. We were divorced. I don't care who you're with. But when I got to talking to my son and I asked him, I said, because see, what you didn't see was him struggling with the things he was struggling with because you were in Texas. He was struggling a lot. He had been through therapy. He had been through all kind of things. He was failing in school. You didn't see those things. You didn't see the tears that I shed at night about the things that I was going through. You didn't see those things. You didn't see your son cry at night. You didn't see those things either. Right? So all of a sudden now he's in a picture with people that he didn't know and he's looking like, well, damn, I just found out 3 months ago that my mama and daddy been divorced and now my daddy got me in a picture with this woman and her 2 kids and a dog and my uncle. And I said, well, damn, that's too much, too fast, too soon for my son who at the time wasn't but 9 years old. It was too much, too fast, too soon for him. Because why? We had already did this before with our other kids. When we did it before with our other kids. Jumped into relationships. Me jumped into a relationship with you. You jumped into a relationship with me. We did it before and it didn't turn out right for those kids. But yet we're going to do baby Jerry the same way. So I talked to my son when he came home. I said, how did you feel about that? He says, my dad didn't ask me. He said, I don't know how I felt. My dad didn't even ask me. He just told me we had to take pictures. Right. So in my mind, so I'm thinking to myself, what Jerry, wait a minute, why would you do this to your son? Like what? Like this was my thinking. So now I'm in protective mode. Because I said, so I called. So when I found out about the picture, this was about August, September, October of that year. So I called your lady at the time. And I said, hey, I know you don't know me. And my hand to God, and she will tell you, I was very respectful. I don't even think I used one curse word on that conversation. I was very respectful. All I asked her was, if you cannot take the picture down off of social media, by my son being on the end of the photo, just crop him out. Why? Because this is too much for him, too fast, too soon. And your thing was, so I'm like, now I'm in mother mode. So now, fast forward, it's Christmas time. We all agreed that I will come Christmas of 2013.
You saying we all agreed? Who agreed to that?
So you saying you didn't agree for me and Jerry to come to you for Christmas?
We never even talked about that.
Then that's it.
We went back and forth about that a lot.
Then we are good, then Jerry. Then we are good. If you're selling me, and here we are in 2025.
I told you
that
this
in
before.
my hand to God, what you denied was knowing both of us was going to show up. You denied.
Come on now. You showed up on your own accord, and you're going to tell me that I knew something about that? You never came to me and said, hey, I'm flying into Texas, and I'm bringing your son to you. You never said one word of that nature, and you know I'm not lying. You know I'm not lying.
All right, then that's it then.
So
that's it. That's it. Hey, because in that moment that we did come to Texas, and I want to just make sure that I'm perfectly clear. And that moment that I came to Texas was December of 2013. At that point, you and I had been going back and forth for 17 years. 17 years. How long had you known that person at that moment when I came to Texas with your son? What, 9 months?
No.
Okay, a year.
No.
Okay, well, how long?
A little bit, a year and a half or something.
Because women don't say a year and a half. It was December. It was December of 2013 when I came to Texas. You didn't get the deployment to December of 2012. So there's no way you could have known her over a year if you met her during deployment.
Listen, pump your brakes.
Okay, so what I want to know is, when I came to Texas in 2013 in December, how long had you known that person?
About a year and some change.
How was it a year and a change when you had only been deployed a year? So did you meet her before the deployment?
No, I did not.
Okay, so when did you? So let's back up then, because I want to know specifics then, because I want to be specifically clear here that what we're talking about. We're talking about this 20 years later. I want to be very, very clear. When did you deploy to that deployment?
I deployed in
December 2012.
No, I did not.
Okay,
I deployed December of 2011. I deployed.
Okay, December of 2011. Okay. I just deployed January of 2012. I'm sorry, I was off by a year. I deployed January of 2012.
You were.
Okay, so you deployed December 2011. You came back December of 2012. Okay? By the time my son went to Texas, it was June, July of 2013, 6 months after you deployed. So now knowing that you went,
after I deployed,
since you came back, since you had came back from the deployment, it was over 6 months. Now, so with that being said, if you got the deployment December of 2011, when did you meet the girl that we're talking about?
I met her in July of 2012.
Okay, so that's 18 months that you had known her. When I had flew, when your son and I, that's 18 months that you had known her. When your son and I flew to Texas for Christmas, because it was the first Christmas, because the prior 2 Christmases, because of deployment, he didn't get a chance to spend with us. And if you remember correctly, I just said he didn't even know until 2013 that you and I were deployed. Divorced. So in 2012 of Christmas, 2013 of Christmas, I came to you because your son was having a difficult time. And you and I talked about it because of it, right? Well, you and I talked about it because there's no way in the world.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
No.
Listen.
You no.
Listen. Okay, that's fine. But what I'm saying to you is that by the time I came to you with your son in 2013 December, you and I had known each other for 17 years. Mm-hmm. And your son and I flew to Texas to spend Christmas with you because your son had been having a hard time that year. And I'm just going to leave that right there. So if you didn't know I was coming, then we're going to keep it right there.
Question for you. You said something in reference to, him being young and at that time. And me forcing him to just get in a picture. Just a question for you. When you saw the picture, did he bring the picture up to you or did you bring it up to him?
I brought it up to him.
You brought it up to him.
Because he was 9. He wasn't going to talk to me about it. I'm the parent. I'm the one that sets the parameters for his life at 9 years old.
Okay, so wait a minute. Hold up. Just hold up. And I don't set the parameters?
Well, you do. That's why you weren't supposed to have him in a situation like that.
What situation was it?
He had just met that family.
Time out. Would you prefer I took the picture?
No, what I would prefer for you to have done was to give it time.
Time out. So let me say this, right? We took a picture, right? It's a family right there, right?
As a family with a dog and all.
Okay. So we took that picture. So let's take that picture. My son was there visiting at that time. Would you prefer it? I would have just said, "Hey, you stand over there and watch us take the picture."
No.
So what should I do?
No. I would have preferred.
Tell me what
I would have preferred for you to not take the picture while your son was in town because of the simple reason that you barely knew this chick. Y'all had just came from a doggone deployment. Why would you put your son in that position? I would never. Listen, my oldest son is 29. I still don't even bring men around him like that because I'm not trying to put him in a position
because he's
like
not
that.
accepting of that like that.
Well, not only that,
because you already know how his temperament
even when they
is.
were young, Jerry, I would never put. Maybe because I'm a woman, and I think that might be the emotional part of it. What I am saying is, at the end of the day, all I asked was for you to give us both time.
Okay, so
and that's the part that you didn't do. You didn't give us both time.
Time out. So we're gonna fast forward now. Our son is 18 at this point. He's getting ready to graduate school. Mm-hmm. My current wife, she sends out a save the date for him. Sending it to the family. Hey, if you guys are coming to this, right? And this is the difference when I'm going to show you how women act between what a man acts. You got all fired up about that. Why? Now, he's 18 now.
Okay, he's 18. And I had already
he's seen the dynamics of this for 10 years. I had a
conversation with my son about what he wanted for his graduation. And a save the date wasn't involved with it. I had already asked my son what he wanted for his graduation.
Save the date was for my family.
Save the date. Right. That means that he would have been involved with a party that he didn't agree to.
A party? No, it wasn't a party.
The graduation or whatever.
It wasn't a party.
Okay, the graduation.
To come and support him.
Okay, so what I'm saying, he didn't agree that. He didn't agree with that. I had already talked to my son about what he wanted. He had already told me what he wanted.
He didn't agree with the support of gifts and
listen,
admiration.
Okay, well, who gave him a gift?
No.
Who gave him a gift?
Did nobody come? Because we canceled it.
Boy, bye. You can send something by mail. If they want to send a gift, they can send a gift. Who sent a gift to him?
Come on now.
Who sent a gift to him?
Karen.
Stop with girl.
Cheryl. They all gave him money.
Okay, and what I'm saying,
they all gave him money, but they wanted to come and celebrate him.
And
but you know who destroyed that?
It wasn't about destroying. BJ
you know who destroyed?
Listen,
don't tell me what BJ wanted.
What you not
about to do? You
gonna tell me
he didn't want the family to come and support him?
Okay, what you not about to do? When it came to this is as simple as this. This is what I told. This is what I simply said. Okay, so since you want to go there, when it comes to mothers and their kids, no woman is to be involved with a mother and her kid when she's there. I don't care what's going on. Every time, let me tell you something. When those girls live with us, even when we were talking about certain things, when I needed, like for example, we talked about earlier in another conversation how when Tweet came, our oldest daughter came to live with us. She was 8 years old.
8 years old.
And she lived with us for a year. Do you remember when I had to take her to the doctor?
I remember vaguely.
Okay, now, before I took her to the doctor, what was one of the things I did first?
You called her mother.
I called her mama. You see where I'm going with this? No, you see where I'm going with this? Before a woman does anything regarding another woman's child, she gets with that woman first.
No. Because you know
No. See, that's how you got the game messed up. That's why you got the game messed up now because even when I was married to you, when it came to those girls, even when your second daughter, she had a mother. She had no. You don't get it.
No,
and that's why we're still here, because
you
do to people.
The shoe gotta fit for you.
No, Jerry. What I do is I give people. No, I give people the same person they give me, which is this. No. I will never put a parent in. I never once, even when me and you was together, anytime Taz did something, what was another thing I did? No matter what he did, even though you was in the house and I was married to you, what did I always do? Call his daddy and let him know everything that was going on.
You get so loud.
Because what I'm explaining to you is this. When it came to your...
Why would you call his daddy?
Because it's his daddy. That's his daddy.
Time out. So, me being the man of that house, and this is the point.
I'm talking about big things. I'm not talking about small things. I'm talking about big things. Big things, Newmys. I'm not talking about everyday things.
Time out. So, if I was a petty dude, and I looked at you, and I can say to you at this point, why would you call that man? And this is my household.
Because that's his.
I don't care.
Okay. But you and I. Okay. Let me say this.
This is the difference.
No. You're trying to. That means no. That's when you're talking about an amp. From the very beginning, you knew that my son's father was active in his life. From the very beginning. Active, you know my son active.
How?
He lived in Michigan. I was in the military.
How though?
He lived in Michigan. I was in the military.
Let's make a point.
What I'm saying to you is that from the beginning, anytime that Taz did when it was major, whether it was his grades or if he, like when he was caught in that girl's house, or when he got injured, or when he did something beautiful in school, the big accomplishments, I made sure to let his dad know what he was doing, because he was not there day to day. Just like when it came to things with the girls. Your wife, your ex-wife will call you when Shanae had when your youngest daughter had different things. She would keep you informed with the things that was going on in your daughter's life, right? But whenever there was something that happened with those girls, when they lived with us and their mother was around, of course, one mother wasn't, I would call and say, hey, this is what's going on with her. To give her a courtesy.
You call who?
I called Leslie. It's many a times, even when I was talking to you about putting her on certain stuff, I was like, let me call her mom and talk to her mom about this first. So what I'm saying to you, there was things before I made drastic decisions about those girls. I'm not talking about day-to-day stuff, but whenever they came to drastic decisions about those girls, I would make sure that their moms were involved. And so all I was trying to explain to you, even with your third wife, was when it came to me and my son, it was nothing for her to say, hey, I'm about to send out a save the date. You got anything planned? And I would be like, no, just go ahead and send it out, because BJ said this and that third, so maybe y'all can get him to change his mind or something. It would have been too easy. It would have been too easy to give me a courtesy call. So let me ask you a question. Because that's what I would have did.
Let me ask you a question.
And you know I would have done that.
Let me ask you a question.
Would I have not given her a courtesy call? Jerry, don't do that, because you've been knowing me 30 years. Don't do that. Don't do that. You've been knowing me 30 years.
I'm going to tell you from my
So would I have not given that woman a courtesy call if she was on the other foot?
Maybe so. I don't know. But listen, I'm just saying what
You
said that saying you gave Leslie a courtesy call. I can't remember you and I having a cordial conversation.
When it came to stuff with dealing with Shanae,
I can't remember you guys having a cordial conversation.
Yeah, when it came to stuff dealing with Shanae.
So you gonna sit there and say that?
When it came to stuff dealing with Shanae, not in the very beginning, when we were still living when you was working at the church at right there on
Comanche.
In Comanche, not that very beginning. That was like year 1 or 2. Things were still raw. But by the time Shanae came to live with us in California and all that kind of stuff, yes, because by that time she had moved on. When there were things that were, because Shanae was older at that point. There were things that
happened behind the...
No, because she was a teenager. Remember, she was 14, 15 at this point. That's sad in 10 years.
So listen, let me make a point for you, and then maybe you'll see it a little differently. She's in the household with us. What do you need to consult her with the basic stuff with this girl?
Because you don't know. Because you
why?
Okay, because when it came to because her daughter was still a minor.
She was still a minor, but her dad.
It doesn't matter. That's a woman. I'm a woman, and I would assume that Jerry, women look at things different. When it comes to a woman and their child, you do not intervene. You make sure you tell them everything.
Okay, wait a minute, hold up. One more point for you.
That's like parenting one-on-one, step parenting one-on-one. Okay,
so BJ's grown now, right?
BJ grown now.
Okay, BJ's grown now.
He grown now.
Can you sit there? Because Big Myron Taz's father came to me. You know what he said to me at the graduation?
Thank you. He said thank you. He said thank you.
The man looked me right in my eyes.
And he said thank you.
Hold on a second. Let me tell the story. I ain't asked you to tell it.
But nobody had to raise my kids. Nobody had to raise my kids. Nobody had to raise my kids.
What are you talking
about? In other words, Taz's daddy said that to you because you was with Taz from the time he was 1 year old. Okay? That was not your story. In other words, you didn't have that situation. There was nobody that you dated that had to intervene and raise my children that can honestly say that they was with my son or my kids since they was 1, except for you. So what I'm saying to you is, yes, when people have history and there's times and there's things that when you get to a certain point, yes, at the time that happened, y'all had only been married a year. Let's be clear there. When she made that phone call, y'all had only been married a year. Till then, she was just your girlfriend.
Time out. You was not even supposed to be on the text message.
It don't matter. That's what happens when you're doing evil. God knows.
It wasn't no evil done there. You think some evil intent was done there?
Well,
to just say, come in.
I found out about it. I found out about it. And I wasn't supposed to be on the text, but I was.
Time out. To go work, to go.
No, because that was my son. Jerry, what part of that you don't understand? Anybody will tell you that's my son. Like I told her before, I'm going to give you the stepmama doggone handbook. Because there are certain things when it comes to...
loud?
Because that's like I told you, the part when it comes to the kids, I can talk about you and our relationship and it won't have no effect on me. Once we start talking about those kids, that's a different effect. Why? Because those kids are everything, especially that baby boy.
Got it. But within saying what you just said, but because I don't want you to think that I'm erasing what you're trying to say. But I will say this within that. What you're saying to a certain degree has merit. But when do you come together and say, hey, this makes sense?
If you knew that we had, remember, let me say this before we cut.
This makes sense.
If you remember, what I'm saying is that if we've already had a tumultuous relationship from the beginning, starting with the picture from 2013.
Let
me finish. It had never been resolved.
Come on now.
It had never been resolved. You talking about 2017 versus 2021. That was only a 4-year difference when that happened. December of 2020 or November 2021, that was only a 4-year difference.
What are you talking about?
What I'm saying is that by the time
2017 or was it 2014, 13, 14?
Jerry, what I'm saying to you is there was never any remedy from that. There was only tumultuousness from that point until.
Why?
Because of the fact that you never put it to, like, listen, this is what we're doing. You know what you did? Like you always do. You throw the rock and had your hand.
No.
I'm out.
Wait a minute.
I'm done, Rob.
So
I'm done, Rob.
Keep it rolling, Rob. I want to keep talking. That's not the facts. The facts are this. When you're in a relationship with somebody and you're dealing with a relationship, hey, it takes a village to raise these kids. You want to point out if my
courtesy.
If my son is
no. All I expect for a woman to do is call me and ask me about it.
If you had another man,
and like I told
if you
her,
was with another man,
I got my kids.
You want me to sit there and say, hey, I need to check in with that man?
You a husband and a daddy and a man that stepped the fuck up and tell her when it came to BJ to stay out of it. And you knew that.
That's not fair.
That is fair because that's what I told you from the very beginning. I didn't give a shit about nothing else except for baby Jerry. I didn't care about nothing else.
So what you're saying...
You know what? Like I told you, that's why we're divorced. When you told me that anybody could have raised your kids better than me, that's what made me sign that divorce paperwork. When you said that to me. So you know when it comes to the kids are important to me.